Can my casual relationship with someone become serious? We're going to dive into this conversation today. You know, it seems to me that casual relationships now outnumber serious relationships. And when I think of a serious relationship, I think of people who are either living together, married, and sometimes what's known as living together apart. And we're going to dive into that a little bit today. But it seems like the prevailing narrative these days, oftentimes in the dating marketplace, is either people that are hooking up, people that are what's known as friends with benefits, people that are in situationships, and people who are in casual relationships. And you might be wondering, what is a casual relationship? So I'm going to share it from my vantage point, my point of view. Now, I've determined, and this is just me, this is not the population at large, but I think there are 3 levels of commitment today when we think of romantic relationships. And the first level of commitment is the agreement to be monogamous and exclusive. Now, some of you might be saying, well, aren't those one and the same? Well, not necessarily, because a person can be monogamous, meaning they're not going to have sex with anyone, but they're still actively going to be out there dating. Okay. That's also kind of why situationship term developed, because it's people, and it's not necessarily about monogamy and situationships, but what the difference between monogamy is you're not going to have sex with anyone. Exclusivity is you're not going to actively put yourself out there to be seen by anyone or actively see someone to replace someone that you're having sex with. So that's why I differentiate between monogamy and exclusivity. Now, I would say most people would agree that being exclusive after a first date is very rare. Meaning you're not going to actively seek other people. I personally believe in dating one person at a time, In other words, if you're going to explore something with somebody, you do it one at a time. Now, some people go, well, that's exclusivity. No, that's just basically giving your attention to one person at a time. But the word exclusivity, the word monogamy is basically, from my vantage point, an agreement with another person to explore a relationship that includes physical intimacy. Now, here's the thing I've observed with relationships today, particularly casual relationships. I think one or both people find themselves in a circumstance similar to if they were in a job that they didn't necessarily love. They're in a job they didn't necessarily love. Okay? You're in this job, you don't love it, but you don't want to put yourself out there to go look for a new job. That's what dating feels like. I mean, quite frankly, many of you said that dating feels like work. In other words, putting yourself out there to meet other people feels like so much work. So some people find themselves in a relationship that is casual, that's monogamy and exclusivity, but they just don't want to put themselves out there from the vantage point of replacing this job, even though they might have monogamy and exclusivity. Now, I'm going to come back to the job analogy in a moment, but let's talk about the level 2 of commitment. Level 2 of commitment is teammates. You operate as teammates. You begin to integrate into each other's lives. Maybe you're spending time with family and friends. Maybe you're going to a work party together. Maybe you are helping each other in your professional capacity. You start helping the other person like you would a teammate, whether you're on a basketball team, you're on a tennis team. You're doing things in unison with one another. Well, not necessarily unison, but you're doing things together to build something. That's what teammate is all about. As I've said in previous videos, it might be saying, hey, I'll drive you to the airport because you're taking a flight out at 6 a.m. It might be, hey, do you want me to pick up your dry cleaning on the way from work? That's operating as a team. Maybe it's doing chores together in each other's homes. You're operating as a team with one another. Now, I would say a lot of relationships reach this level of 1 and level 2. Level 1, monogamy and exclusivity. Level 2, teammates. And yet, why are those still casual relationships, at least from my vantage point? Let's come back to the job. You're okay with the job. You're committed to the job. You operate as a teammate in this job. But something is missing. An X factor is missing. And what the X factor is, what I call level 3 of commitment, is all in. All in. By the way, we've heard this in wedding vows for richer or poorer, sickness and health. You know, that's what all in is. You're beyond teammates. You are looking out for the other person's best interest. That's what trust is. When you think about trust, we oftentimes think of fidelity, but when we go deeper into trust, trust is I've got this other person's best interest at heart. I'm always looking out for their best interest. Now, without compromising my own interest, But that's really effectively what trust is. And all in is that space of going, I've got your back. I'm here. You want me. We are important. I'm not going anywhere, and I only want you. And by the way, if you've watched previous videos of mine, I believe when we say the words, I love you to another person, or when we are in love with another person, we say, I'm here. You matter. We are important. I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere, and I only want you. I'm here. That means I'm present to this relationship. I'm here. I'm present to this relationship. I'm not thinking about replacing you. I'm not thinking about getting a job elsewhere. I'm in this job. And I'm using the job analogy, okay? I'm here. You matter. That means your feelings matter to me. Your feelings matter to me. I care about you, how you feel. We are important. We are important. That means that the relationship is a separate entity. You're treating as a separate entity. It's something that you covet. It's something that you make sure that you nurture together as a team. I'm here. You matter. We're important. I've got your back. That's where that teammate comes in. I've got your back. If you need me, I'm there for you. If you've got a colonoscopy this week and you need me to take you to the doctor and pick you up, I'm there. I've got your back. By the way, for those of us midlife, those of us over 50, we all know about colonoscopies and doctor's appointments, because ultimately for those of us in midlife, a big part of a serious relationship is you've got my back. You're going to be there, because the reality is the days in front of us are shorter than the days behind us for those of us in our 50s. In fact, the average life expectancy of a person is 79 years old. So if you're 55, 60 years old, that means your body is going to start breaking down. I've got your back. Let's repeat that. I'm here. You matter. We're important. I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere. That means I'm fully committed to this relationship. That's what all in is. I'm fully committed to this relationship. And I only want you means I passionately desire you. I'm not looking on Instagram and getting off on other women or men, for that matter, if it's a woman looking on Instagram. I only want you. I covet you from that sexual perspective. Sadly, as I said before, we see most people find themselves in casual relationships, because reaching that level of all in is challenging for so many people. And let me give you some examples of why this doesn't happen. I'm going to tell you something. For those of us over 40, roughly 75% of people over 45 years old who are in the dating marketplace are divorced. And that's anecdotal on my part, but I think most of you would agree that's probably an accurate number. 75% of people are divorced. And I will tell you, divorce comes with an emotionally traumatic experience, particularly in many cases from a financial perspective. So when we think of all in, it's not just all in emotionally, it's not just all in physically, it's all in with our resources to support one another. And we see a lot of men and women are radically gun shy from that perspective. Listen, ladies, I've heard you say, I don't want to be a nurse, or I don't want to be a purse. So this isn't singular to men, that men are simply gun shy for marriage because of a financial calamity that happened. And certainly the reason why women say, I don't want to be a nurse or a purse, is because they know as we age, we're going to physically have to take care of someone. The sad part of this is particularly for those of us that are, for those that are over 65, 70 years old, that's a real reality. And many people don't want to take that on, women and men. I don't want to be a nurse or a purse. So coming back to a bad divorce financially can cause people to stay in casual relationships. They're okay with that monogamy and exclusivity. They're okay with teammates, but they're not capable of going all in. And there's another reason why a lot of people, men and women in particular, are afraid to go all in, because they had a painful breakup. They had a relationship that hurt them deeply. When you find yourself in a treasured relationship that didn't work out, particularly if it wasn't your choice to end the relationship, whether you're a man or woman, that can make a person very gun shy to wanting to go all in with another person. It's scary to go all in. There's an emotional responsibility to a relationship. There's a physical responsibility to a relationship. And when I say emotional, caring for another person's feelings is a responsibility. I mean, in other words, if you have integrity and you take it seriously, there's a responsibility to that. Spending time with another person is a physical responsibility. And as I said before, there's even financial responsibility when we start to go all in with another person. And if somebody went through a traumatic breakup, and by the way, I look at, I believe men, when they love and they love deeply, it can be very, very painful. Many men don't know how to process their emotions and feelings when a treasured relationship ends. Now, that's why they opt for casual relationships, because it doesn't require going all in with another person. See, casual covers your basic needs of companionship, connection, and sex. Now, in many cases, they want it at a limited basis. In other words, once or twice a week. This is what we see with so many casual relationships. There is only about once or twice a week at best. In fact, this is one of the reasons why long distance relationships are so popular, because it doesn't require that physical connection. And in many cases, doesn't even require a financial connection with that person because of distance. It allows them to get that companionship, connection, and sex without any deeper all-in commitment. Sadly, fear is what blocks us to going all in with another person. That X factor I talked about, that X factor. Love can be very painful if you've had a traumatic experience with a relationship, or sadly, like many of us, that we had a traumatic experience with one or both of our parents. The first people that taught us about love could have emotionally damaged us significantly, where we have wounds of abandonment, we have wounds of rejection. If you're not familiar with the work of the Hoffman process, I invite you to do, this is a book to do a deep dive into healing your childhood wounds and adult traumas that makes it difficult to open up to another person to love. See, I think the reason why many people are incapable of going all in is they have walls up around their heart. And they might be good men. They might be men of stature. They might be men of success. They might be men of character. And yet, men of success, men of character, good men might still have a wounded heart that makes it difficult for them to go all in with another person. So I want to come back to the job analogy, because I think a lot of you ladies find yourself in casual relationships, and it's better to have something than nothing. And for many people, that's the case. And you have to understand that, or not understand, but you have to decide, are you willing to accept that? I know many of you would like the fantasy of love, being angels singing, oh, rainbows in the sky, birds chirping, doves flying, sunshine, rainbows, angels singing. But casual, there's something to be said for casual relationships. Now, can a casual relationship become something serious? I think ultimately, if two people have reached a state where they're spending regular time together, probably 3 or 4 or 5 days a week together, even if they don't live together. In fact, the prevailing narrative today in a lot of relationships are living together apart. If you're not familiar with the book, Living Apart Together by Anne Watson. By the way, this is a tiny little book. I mean, it's 100 pages, but it's a lot of like white space, okay? Living apart together. This happens to be for those in midlife, this happens to be one of the prevailing types of relationships we see in the dating marketplace. Because the reality is going all in is scary for a lot of people if they've been hurt. And the other thing is, coming back to the job analogy, imagine you end this job. Okay, you end this job to go put yourself out there. You found a job and all of a sudden it ends in the probationary period and you're feeling yourself, God, I had this job that paid my bills. Now I'm left with nothing. I think this is why a lot of people opt for something versus nothing. This is why hookups, situationships, casual relationships, because the reality is at midlife, serious relationships are radically complicated. Blending lives with another human being is radically complicated. Finding someone who shares your values, your interests, your hobbies identical is rather complicated. And quite frankly, sadly, we are swimming in a sea of emotionally wounded people who have done little work to heal, to open their heart up for that it factor I talked about, that capacity to go all in. The reality is dating and relationships are not for the faint of heart. It is the Hunger Games out there. I'm sorry to break the news to you. It is not angels singing sunshine and rainbows. I know that there are the exceptions to the rules. You see all those exceptions to the rules. And by the way, here's the thing. I still opt out for the exception versus the rule. I'm here just sharing you what I believe is the prevailing narrative, and yet I still hold hope for every one of you to find that relationship where you're actually singing like angels, where it's sunshine and rainbows. I hold that space for you. In fact, I want to share with you quickly a story. I met a man this past weekend who's in a 20-year relationship, but they live separately. For financial reasons, for other reasons, they live separately, but they live just a few miles from one another. They see each other almost every day. They are all in this relationship. And he said it started off casual, but the more time we spent together, the more we began appreciating one another. And so can a casual relationship turn into something serious? I only believe it's going to happen when you spend more regular time together. Otherwise, if you find yourself in a long distance relationship, which is mostly casual, or you find yourself in a relationship where you only see each other once or twice a week at best, those are going to be situationships, casual relationships. It is the time spent together is where it's going to shift into something serious. And this man I spoke to, said that he was fully in love with her. It's just they lived together apart. So coming back to, I hold space for the exception, not the rule. I'm going to make a prayer for all of you who are watching this. God, universe, spirit, I invite in everyone who is watching this to attract in a relationship, that juicy, delicious relationship where they have amazing communication with one another, that they can talk with one another like two best friends, where the chemistry between them is off the charts, and they have great all-in sexual chemistry with one another, and they can blend lives together with relative ease. And they share the same values that allows them to build the deep roots of trust through teamwork, through social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends. God, universe, spirit, I hold this space for everyone to become the exception, not the rule. And yet, if you find yourself in the rule, there's nothing wrong with that either. What you have to do is make peace with it to be able to enjoy and accept it. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis for just $20 a month. You can join, or you can follow me on Instagram. You can get my dating vows listed below. And you can get all the books I recommend in the Jonathan Recommend Books section. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $sign in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right there in the Obey shirt. He's my son who passed away over 6.5 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal today is $50. Also, if you'd like to join me on the love seat, meaning you want to join me live, you want to ask a question, I just post a link right there. All right. Hey, I want to thank Debbie for the $20 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate you, Debbie. Welcome back. We've missed you. Kathy Canadian says it's sinking in. Thank you, Kathy. Debbie also says it's sinking in. Ava says, thank you. Trista has a good question. I wonder if people don't go all in relationships because they don't go all in on themselves, their own life, always living life on the fringe. You know, this experience we call life, you know, I don't know if life is fair. I don't know if it's unfair, but I don't know if it's fair. I think when you look across the board, I've seen people have significant childhood wounds and traumas, and they've overcome them. I've seen people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol as a way to numb the emotional pain they're feeling on the inside. You know, I can speak for myself, you know, and I shared this in the beginning part of this video. I experienced a very traumatic breakup. When I say traumatic breakup, when I look back to the ending of my most significant relationship, it hurt deeply. I didn't say it outwardly because I wanted to accept it and not wallow in it or be a victim to it. And yet it hurt deeply to open up to another human being. And as I peeled the onion to getting to the core of what's going on inside of me, I recognize that I have even a deeper wound that relates back to my childhood with my mother. And so it's difficult to go all in when we're in emotional pain. And many people don't process their pain very well. Very few people actually do process their pain, whether it's seeking a therapist, whether it's seeking a counselor or coach, whether it's seeking a confidant. You know, it's interesting. I'm working with a client now, and we did a deep dive. We did an 8-hour coaching session here at my place. That's something that's available to you. We did a deep dive into working on her stuff, and that concentrated 8 hours opened up portals. And by the way, let me just share something with you. I am not a trained therapist. I'm just teaching the things I've learned along the way. I want to be upfront. I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. There's no certification for what I do. Truthfully, if I believed you needed medical treatment, I'd let you know. But I just teach the things I've been taught. Isn't that what teaching is? You learn something, you teach it. You learn something, you teach it. And we uncovered some deeper wounds for herself. And thankfully, she can step into this new relationship that she's in with a lot more clarity. Doesn't necessarily mean we're ever going to be able to get to all in with everybody, but that's part of the life experience as well. So Trista, thank you so much for that. All right, let's keep going. Jessica says, if it started casual, I believe that's our first mistake. We mustn't present ourselves as low-hanging fruit or be treated that way. Well, again, I don't know if casual is low-hanging fruit. I think agreeing to monogamy and exclusivity, because you're not going to go all in on the first date. You're not going to go all in on the second date. You're probably not even going to start going all in until you've spent at least 3 months to a year with another person. So I don't think it's low hanging fruit. I think if you're entering into a relationship that's a hookup or situationship or friends with benefits, I think that might be low hanging fruit. But I don't think entering into casual, I think the reason why we make it casual is because there's a fear of going all in with a total stranger. The truth is, for those of us in midlife, we have a lot of moving pieces. We might have children still at the home. We might have financial concerns of alimony or child support or some other things going on that makes it difficult to go all in with somebody that we haven't built the deep roots of trust. And deep roots of trust can take anywhere from 3 months to a year, if not longer, especially the more wounded the person is. So, Jessica, I'm not sure that it's low-hanging fruit. And I'd like your take on that, because I don't believe it's low-hanging fruit. Again, if you're agreeing to monogamy and exclusivity, as I shared with you before, I believe in only dating one person at a time. But that's not exclusivity. Exclusivity is that commitment to go deeper, to explore someone from a long-term perspective. And Jessica just popped in. True, excellent. I think you meant reframing or framing. I do get so confused by what casual means. Love that you are going deep here, Jonathan. The idea of a longer session is brilliant too. So I want to touch upon this, Jessica. I would agree that a hooking up, a situationship of friends with benefits is low-hanging fruit to some degree, unless you're willing to accept that. I mean, two people can enter into a friends with benefits situation that is an agreement. Hooking up is confusing because you don't, like, one person might more and the other person doesn't, but it lacks communication. Friends with benefits, at least you're communicating with one another in most cases. Situationships, the reason why it's called a situationship, Jessica, is you're confused at the label of what's going on. It lacks some understanding. And coming back to the longer session, I will tell you, quite frankly, I'm not a big fan of once a week therapy. I don't believe we can do enough healing once a week. I'm actually a believer of, to some degree, daily therapy. Now, what I mean by daily therapy, I mean personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy. But I'm talking about having a trusted confidant in your life that can help you process your emotions and feelings, I think, on a more consistent basis. I also believe in workshops like the Hoffman process or Insight Institute. My son today is at Insight too. I'm so proud of him, my son Colin. There's a picture of him right there. I'm so proud he's doing Insight too. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. My son also got accepted to a doctoral program to become a psychologist. So I'm really excited about that. And by the way, he comes to his dad all the time to process his emotions and feelings. And that's what, listen, we all have the capacity to give amazing advice to the people we love and care for. And so let's avail ourselves of that. Now, preferably people that are done some work that can be impartial or at least somewhat objective. That would help a lot, versus those that are wounded and they're just projecting their wounds onto you. So anyway, let's see what else we got. Jessica says, go Colin. Thank you so much. Debbie says, fantastic for your son. Thank you. RN Lynn says, wonderful to hear, go Colin. RM Bells is in the house. Looking back, I sometimes think my relationships were situationships, but now I see just one was. Yeah, a situationship is basically two people spending time together. They haven't agreed to monogamy. They haven't agreed to exclusivity. They're spending time together. Oftentimes they're having physical intimacy, but it lacks some level of commitment. The reason why I start with monogamy and exclusivity as the first layer of commitment is because it's like that job that I was talking about. It's a person who took a job, but they're constantly looking to replace that job. And and let's take it a step further. They work from home and they say they're working on their job. They punched in the clock, but they're working 2 other jobs at the same time. That's kind of what a situationship is. Is that they're not exclusive to the job, and they're even cheating on the job with other people. RM Bell says, yes, I had a 5-year situationship. Great descriptor. Thank you so much. By the way, if anyone wants to join the Love Seat, I would love it if someone would join me live right now and we can chat about this. Carrie says, does anyone have trouble letting go of a relationship? Wow. I know I do. I'll be candid. I still struggle. There's residue from my past that bleeds into my life today. It's not easy letting go or moving. Sometimes we're forced to move on for a variety of different reasons. But when we've deeply cared for someone, I don't know if we ever let go of the love. I don't know if we ever let go of the love. I mean, imagine a person that lost their spouse. Can you ever really, like, we can accept that because there's death involved, but the ending of a serious relationship is a death of a different sort. I think for those that have lost a spouse, you never lose that love. We learn to navigate it, manage it, and in some cases, it can certainly block us to opening our hearts to another person. This is why casual relationships are becoming the norm, because we have so many people that have been hurt by love that it makes them difficult. They have walls up to open their heart to another human being. Like I said, this is not for the faint of heart. What I think is most important is to be radically honest with one another, to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be transparent. Because at least if you're vulnerable, authentic, and transparent, the other person can make a choice whether or not they want to stay with somebody who can't open their heart to love. Not everybody can do that. Carrie wants to go on to say, Carrie says, I agree with you. And she goes on to say, what inner emotional work are you doing, Sandy, to get past it? Oh, okay. She's responding to someone else. I'm going to tell you the Hoffman process is great. Insight Seminars, type in Insight Seminars organization. You might want to check that out. But these aren't specific to relationships. You can go to a trauma therapist. I know there's a trauma therapist out of Florida, Nadine Mancuso, which was Jordan Belfort's ex-wife from Wolf of Wall Street. She's a friend of mine on Instagram. And she's specifically a trauma therapist specializing in narcissistic emotional abuse. Not to suggest that's what happened to you, but I would say a lot of people have found themselves in narcissistic abusive relationships. That might be a person you want to reach out to. I am going to have in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have someone come on to talk about this on a deeper level. Find a qualified counselor, coach, or therapist to help process it. Sandy wants to know, Jonathan, how are you doing? How are you getting past your past hurts and not allowing the past to affect your future? You know, awareness is 80% of it. When you're aware of it, that's 80% of it. You know, I do psychedelic therapy as one thing. I work with a coach. I work with, I have a lot of people in my life. I'm blessed to have so many coaches in my life that I can call and process my emotions and feelings. It's like unraveling the tapestry, you know, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's rewiring oneself requires inner work. I don't know how to give you a descriptor of what I'm doing other than being aware of my emotions and feelings, processing my emotions and feelings, sharing with it publicly. I will tell you this. I did a post on Facebook. I want to share it with everybody. This will just take me a second to find. Give me 1 second. The more vocal I am about my life experiences, the more I feel like Woody Allen or a Larry David character. Hashtag neurotic. You know, it's interesting. I'm a person who shares publicly my journey because I want to be a role model for people. I want to invite inner healing for everyone. But the more I listen to myself, I sound like a neurotic person because I choose to do a deep dive into my emotions because I think that's where the juice of life lies, is in our experiencing of all different types of emotions. See, we don't have to make emotion be good or bad. I interviewed Deborah Battersby. She wrote the book Freedom Point. Every emotion is just an emotion. We oftentimes look at them as bad. But fear, like we look at fear, sadness, depression as bad, but there's that emotion is telling us something. That fear, that doubt, that sadness, that all of that is telling us something. And it ultimately, and here's the answer to your question. It all comes back to this: self-love. Excuse me. This is my book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. That's what I'm doing. And my book is a very simplistic approach, okay? But self-love is self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem, self-discipline, self-reliance. We all have an inner 6-year-old inside of us that has fear. And the adult in us, self-love, is wrapping our arms around our little 6-year-old and saying, I've got your back. I've got your back. And that's what I'm doing. I realize I wrote a book for something I had to learn or am learning. And it's a process. And we may never get there. Maybe not until 7 seconds before we pass. But that's what this journey is about. Okay? That's at least my perception anyway. Hope that helps. Let's see. Michelle says, my last relationship was 13 years and it's been over for almost 2 years and I'm still heartbroken. Some people believe it takes half the amount of time of a relationship to heal. I mean, you'd be going, Jonathan, 6.5 years? Oh my God, I don't want to wait that long. But what if it takes half the time? And by the way, I'm not saying this is accurate, okay? But that's the amount of love to get to a place of equanimity for yourself. I would say, and I can understand how 2 years after a 13-year relationship, and I know people that have had a 1-year relationship and it takes them 10 years to heal from it, okay? There is no timeline. The timeline is how much love are you giving yourself in those 2 years? Are you doing a deep dive into loving yourself? And loving yourself isn't manicures and pedicures. That's self-care. Self-love is unraveling those emotions and rewiring yourself. At least that's my perception anyway. Ava says it takes both to be all in, because if only one does the work, it was only good for 4 decades, then he gave up and got tired. Yes, a relationship is a 2-lane street of 2 people traveling down the road together, working, holding hands together. Those are the ones that can get through it, in my opinion. It's not, if it's only one person, it's a one-sided relationship. Ava says, can you love and hate a person equally after 44 years? You know, it's interesting. My mom told me something. My mother and father were married 66 years before my mother passed away. And she said about 10 or 15 years into the marriage, she said, I hated your father so much that I wanted him dead for the life insurance so I could take care of you kids. I'm like, and I couldn't believe my mom said that, because I thought my parents were happily married. They went through a tough time. You see, the reason why wedding vows were created is because in a long enough timeline, you can actually build deeper love going through all of the painful experiences. See, today, and my parents were of the generation is once you got married, that was it. But by the way, I'm not here to suggest people should stay in abusive relationships or anything like that. But she said after what ended up happening was my mom began loving on herself, and she started to travel the world. And eventually their relationship became one that I used to admire how much they loved each other. So I think the answer is yes, you can love and hate someone at the same time. RM Bell says, any updates on your current relationship? Well, I will tell you that we've reached a place of where, we're deciding if we're partnership material with one another. I don't know if we're there yet. So we're evaluating whether or not we're partnership material or not. And there's a little limbo in that space, but we're doing it authentically. We're doing it with communication. Because we're not sure that we're partnership material. That's what dating is. It's a vetting process to decide if two people make sense from a partnership perspective. And we have some lifestyle differences that makes it a little bit challenging. And we're talking it through. We may not get there. We may get there. I don't know. But what we're doing is honestly communicating with one another, and that's where we're at. And honest folks, and by the way, money discussions have come up, what our lifestyle, because we have lifestyle differences. We have differences between the two of us, and we're navigating whether or not those differences make sense for one another. That's where we're at right at this moment. Because once you start getting close to the 3-month mark in a relationship, it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's either you're moving towards something, you're moving towards a partnership track between the 3-month and the 1-year mark. Otherwise, it most likely could just lean into a casual relationship. I don't mean mine. I just mean any relationship. If you don't start talking about it from a partnership perspective. Okay. Hope that helps. Carrie comes back and says, I have a hard time trusting women too. Seeing so much flirting with other people's boyfriends and husbands with ease, just shocking. Yeah, social media, as an example, probably has instigated so much distrust out there because we now are bombarded with opportunities or the belief of opportunities. So I'm in agreement with that. Question, I'm thinking about trying speed dating in my city as a way to meet real people and date with intention. Have you ever tried this? What's your opinion on speed dating? Yes, I have done speed dating events. I've done about, probably a half a dozen or more. I find them interesting ways to connect with people. I did make a friend out of one of them. Did I have a love connection? No, but if one speed dating event turns one, if out of 60 people, one couple emerges from that, I actually think that's good. If one relationship can merge out, because it's a roll of the dice. I mean, could more merge from it? Maybe. But for a lot of reasons I shared earlier, that's why they never get into a real serious dating dynamic. And what I mean by relationship, there might be people that go to a speed dating event, briefly date someone from that, but maybe it doesn't turn into a love connection. Okay. By the way, if anyone wants to join me on the love seat, I'm going to post this. I would love to have someone join me live and we can talk about this. RM Bell says, that's nice, J.A. Thank you for straying with us. I think you mean sharing with us. My key broke. There you go. My keyboard broke. Thank you for sharing with us. You're very welcome. Remember that show, Love Connection? Debbie, I actually tried out for the Love Connection. I went on a Love Connection date, but it never turned into filming. They thought my date was boring, which it kind of was boring. She picked me. And it was a really boring date. So it never made it to television. But Chuck Woolery We'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. 2 minutes and 2 seconds. I did The Love Connection back in, let's see, it would have been 1989, 1988, 1989, right around that time. Oh my God, I was such the like, did you ever see the movie Wall Street with Charlie Sheen? That was me, dressed in a double-breasted suit. I went everywhere in a double-breasted suit. I was almost like Patrick Bateman without the psycho killer part of it. But that's kind of the life I led, going out to fancy nightclubs and things like that back in the 80s. Oh my God. Did anyone see the movie American Psycho? If you take away the killer part of it, I mean, the 80s were double-breasted suits, going out to nightclubs and doing cocaine in the bathroom. That was my life. I'm going to be candid with you. I'm going to own it. That's what I did back in the 80s. I went out double-breasted suits, nightclubs, doing blowing. I'm trying to hook up. I'm not necessarily, I'm sounding like I'm proud of it, only in the sense that, you know what, it was just an experience, like I was young, dumb, and full of cum, Now I'm old, saggy, and and I shoot blanks. Anyway, okay. Carrie says, so funny, Jonathan. I've been watching a lot of Love Connection videos the past months. I love that show. Ashley, how do you feel about dating someone going through a divorce? I've said this before, Ashley. Divorce is the unraveling of the tapestry of your life with another human being. And I believe at a minimum, it takes 2 years to reintegrate into your sovereignty. I think taking a break for a couple years and not dating would behoove a person. That's my because what ends up happening is they go from by the way, do you know second marriages end at a 65% rate and third marriages end at a 75% rate? It's because most of the time they jump from one relationship to the next and there was very little healing done. I'd say at a minimum, a 2-year break. And I wouldn't date someone going through a divorce because they can always get back together, and you're also buying all of their problems along the way. That at least has been my perception of what happens. Catherine says, a casual, committed to each other relationship can absolutely turn into something more serious. Time and energy can build and develop all sorts of things. That's pretty much what I said earlier. If you begin to invest more time with one another, a casual relationship can turn into seriousness, something serious if you're operating as teammates with one another. And quite frankly, if you're ready to go all in with somebody, it can go from casual to serious. So I'm in agreement with that. Kathy says, oh my God, Jonathan. Yeah, I was a bit of a player back in the day. By the time I hit 27 years old, my programming started to hit in. Mom and dad's voice in my head. Go to college, get a job, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. Go to college, meet a girl, or go to college, get a job, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. My programming started to kick in at around 27. And my criteria for a woman was simply, am I attracted to them? Did they have a college education? Did they come from good parents? That was literally my criteria back then. Think about it. When you're in your 20s, what was your criteria? Attraction for another person. Oftentimes, were they attractive? I added the college education because my parents instilled that upon me. And because I thought I came from a good home, boy, did I later realize how much my parents fucked me up as I became an adult. And my parents didn't intentionally fuck me up. It's just what happened. RM Bell says, I bet you were a smoke show back in the 80s. Yeah, I mean, by the way, I used to, even in my 40s, I used to be compared to Mr. Big from Sex and the City because I wore a suit professionally. And I was often, people would say, you look like Chris Noth. I wonder if people walked up to Chris Noth and said, I think it's Noth or Noth, excuse me. Do you know you look like Jonathan Aslay? In fact, my dating profile, when I first got into the dating and marketplace at around age 42, 43. My profile said, often told I look like Big from Sex and the City. That was my headline. I'm often told I look like Big from, because everybody loved Big from Sex and the City. Talk about the quintessential unavailable man back then. But yeah, I do believe, you know what? I cleaned up pretty nice, RM Bell, so thank you. Ava says there's great humor to life. Hey, if you have a question, write the word question, then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $ in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right back there. I'd appreciate the love before we get close to wrapping up. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up early. Or does anyone have any bravery to join me on the love seat? I'm just posting a link once again. All right. Oh, I want to acknowledge RM Bells. Love your content. Thanks to your son. Thank you so much again. And Debbie, I want to thank you as well. All right, let's see what we have here. Some RM Bell says, someone please join the love seat. We'd appreciate it. She had the word join here. We'd appreciate it. Looks like we have a bashful group today. What's going on? I need some fodder. I need some content. Coming back to casual. You know, free coaching. I'm starting to wonder if it's okay to just be in a casual relationship, folks. And when I say okay, it may not be your dream job, as I said before, but you know, for some people, something is better than nothing. I think casual relationships give us an opportunity to work and heal on ourselves. I think when we're not in that fully committed relationship, that all-in relationship, we can work on those other parts of ourselves that are still hurting. So I don't want to poo-poo casual relationships because I think they serve a purpose. I wished I said that earlier in the broadcast, but I think casual relationships do serve a purpose. Ashley just gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. Well, gosh, I wish, come on, give me something. Somebody write a question. I don't care what it is. Ask me anything personal at this point. I don't mind sharing my personal stuff, or I do my best to protect my privacy. Don't WM. Kathy says, don't WM. I don't know what that means. Don't women. By the way, ask me anything right now. I want to go for at least an hour. We're at 52 minutes. I'd appreciate something. Post a question. All right, I'm going to give it 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6. Give me something. Ever been stalked? Okay. Have I ever been stalked? Oh my God. Yes, I have. Okay, I'll get to Sandy's question in a second. Have I ever been stalked? Yeah, I've been stalked once. Kind of a scary experience. I've had some weird circumstances happen where I've had women fantasize about me and send me love letters since I began my YouTube channel. But yeah, I've been stalked. It's very weird. Okay. Constipated, or excuse me, conspiratory. I did answer that question 5 minutes earlier. So question, how do you dive and trust again? You know, I wish I could give you this one pat answer to recover from breakup. I think self-love is the antidote to suffering. I think self-love is doing inner work and nurturing that little kid inside of you. I think that's how you begin to dive in and trust again, is when you work on yourself. That's the way I view it anyway. Okay. Kim asked a question. On a dating site, can get past a first date. Kim, that's not really a question. On a dating site, can't get past a first date. Oh, well, are you a fun first date? I mean, I would be curious why. I mean, oh, I'm going to tell you the story, Kim. I had a woman say to me, Jonathan, I can't get past a first date. I said, did you ever ask the man out on a second date or ask a man out on a date after a first date? She goes, no, I've never done that. And so she did that with the very next man who didn't ask her out on a second date. And she asked him out for coffee like 4 or 5 days later. And he said, I didn't think you liked me. Some women give off an impression that they're not very open and receptive. So she learned, and by the way, she did it again and again and again and realized that it was her, and she gave off a vibe that wasn't very friendly. So, I mean, I would just ask them out on a second date and see how they respond. That would be my way of doing it. Kathy wants to know, do you think too many past hurts from childhood karma from the past relationships that will never be free from all before getting into a type of casual? By the way, I fumbled that. And by the way, Bella, I'll get to you in a second, so just bear with me. I do believe past hurts can directly affect our capacity to open our heart to love. I mean, by the way, to be open and receptive to love can be a very scary, traumatic experience. So I would say a lot of nurturing of one's heart is what's required to be able to open your heart to love. Okay. Bella, I'm just going to take one more quick question. Have you ever dated someone with an STD? Yes. In fact, I will tell you, I would venture to say 10% of women I've dated have had some sort of STD, and I'm guessing at that at a minimum, but they were open and upfront about it. I just got tested for I just had an STD test a few months ago, and I was clean as a whistle, very grateful. I did that before, right after my relationship began. All right, Bella's in the house.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hi, welcome.
So my question is, I just got out of, let me try to get this straight. Okay. I just got out of about close to 6-month relationship at this point.
Okay.
It was with a widower.
Okay.
And so he just hadn't done a lot for healing.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this a little bit before, but he was married for 47 years.
Okay. Wow.
And that's a lifetime. And, you know, he no doubt he's a great dad, and he was a good devoted father, and he still is grandpa and everything. So first, like, he dated before me. He dated one woman. I think he kind of ended sort of amicably, but not. You know, he kind of like just, it seems like he runs at a certain point and just can't deal with it.
Okay.
So I kind of saw that, but he was good with me. The first 3.5 months were really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed up for me. He was calling me daily. The communication was spot on. Like, he really seemed to be all in.
Okay.
And we were seeing each other regularly, you know, 2-3 times a week at least. And so it was all good. And then he just pulled away.
Okay.
And we still talk. You know, I kind of ended it yesterday. Like,
okay. So this is fresh.
Yeah, I officially ended it yesterday because I was like, you know what?
Can you describe to me, Bella? Can you describe exactly how you did that? I think everybody would like to hear. How did you do it over the phone? Did you do it face to face? Did you do it over text? Like, how did you go about it?
I did. Well, I saw him last week.
Okay.
And we talked, and he said, you know, he was married forever. And he said now he's sort of thinking, I think it's like fear of missing out, maybe.
Okay.
Where he's thinking, maybe he just wants to be single, and he does care about me, but he said things have been wonderful. He goes, I don't know. He goes, I'm a moron. I don't know, you know, all of that. And I just needed the time to process it, to say, do I really want to end it right now? Because this is the month his wife passed.
Oh, okay.
So that's triggering to him. I understand. And, you know, I just kind of held him and said, I care about you. And, but we kind of left it at that. And then yesterday, I could see it kind of was fading back again. And yesterday I called him and I said, I care about you so much. I said, but I just feel like for me, I can't, it's triggering. I'm anxious. I feel like he's avoidant, even possibly. I don't know. I don't know if it's his grief or avoidant or a little bit of both, because he had a dad that used to beat him.
Oh.
So he grew up, he had a rough childhood, a little, he really did. So, I give him grace for that. I mean, he's a good man, but I just feel like he just doesn't know what the hell he wants. And I feel like, all I can do is let go at this point. And I told him, I care about you. And I said, but for me, you're in my heart and I need to heal and I need to detach because I can't move on. You seem like you can, but I can't move on if you're still here so up front and center. Yeah. So I have to let go. He's like, well, we can still be friends. And I said, we're always friends.
Yeah.
I said, but we were so much more than that right now, I don't know how that feels.
Yeah.
But we can touch base. You can open up, I said, I just feel like I need to move on and see, I'm not, I'm 67, so I'm no spring chicken. And
how old was he?
66.
66. Okay, so Bella, I want to go back. How did you inform? Maybe I didn't understand. Did you ended it yesterday? Did you do it over the phone? Did you do a text or did you do it face to face?
On the phone.
On the phone. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We talked for about an hour.
And I'm going to assume the two of you were physically intimate as well.
Oh yeah.
So okay. So it sounds like the sex was good.
It was wonderful.
Oh man, doesn't that suck? I mean, it would be easier if it was shitty
really
sex. Okay. So, all right. So what would you like to process in this conversation?
I just, I guess I'm kind of second guessing a little bit that maybe this was bad timing, that I should have waited, but I feel like I've been waiting, for the past month. He's just been so detached. And then mentioning that he's thinking he might be with other women, I'm thinking, am I letting him go shopping with a cart full already?
Yeah. So let's get inside his head for a moment, and then I want to spend some time getting inside your head. Okay.
Thank you.
I would really like you to allow me to get inside your head in a moment.
Of course.
Okay. So 47-year marriage. Was he in love with his wife?
Oh, yes. Very
Deeply
much.
in love. Okay.
Yes.
And how did she die?
She had cancer.
Okay. And how long did the cancer last?
I want to say it was a while, but they really didn't know till the end, like probably about a year.
Okay. So for a year, they were preparing for her loss, right?
Kind of. I don't think he really was. Like March 11th was like when she first collapsed.
Okay.
And they took her to the hospital. So like this month is so bad for him. Like
wait,
I'm thinking.
To be clear, how long ago did his wife pass again? What?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. You might have shared it and I apologize for not remembering. Okay. So, you have to recognize that when we deeply love someone, whether it's, a child, a parent, a spouse, a friend, we form an attachment to that person.
Of course.
And certainly death is can be a traumatic experience, particularly if it's a death that lingered for a while. In other words, I meant like cancer, something that lingers for a while before it happens, versus an accidental death, a sudden death, that sort of thing, which is even, at least if it's something that lingers, you get to say goodbye to the other person, versus like my son who died in an accident. I never got a chance to say goodbye. So I want to just differentiate that. But most importantly, if he deeply loved her, my suspicion is that his capacity to open his heart to someone new could be very limited, and he has a fear of taking on emotional responsibility of another person's heart. It can be scary, but because there is an emotional responsibility the minute you enter into a relationship. Now, here's the tricky part. We humans are craving companionship. We're craving connection. We're craving that physical intimacy. But to go all in emotionally can be very scary. And if you've had an experience like what he had, he probably didn't properly grieve on an emotional level to open his heart to someone new. Now, that means he's not doing anything wrong. Even his desire to go seek someone else, as he knows he can't give you what you need, most likely. He wants to replace the companionship, connection, and sex. And you're saying, look, I'm not going to accept a casual relationship. Now, that's where I believe he's at. Let's bring it back to you now. I'm going to assume you knew going in that there was some red flags dating a widower. I'm hoping you had some assumption around that. Did you?
I had no clue because I never dated a widower. I figured there would be things, but we got along so well, and he seemed so open in the beginning, like very open to talking about things, and just affectionate, and just we communicated really, really well together. So it just seemed like everything was flowing so great.
Yeah.
And I told him going in, I said, I know I will never replace your wife, nor will I ever try. There's nobody that will.
Tell me your backstory. Tell me your backstory. Married, divorced, multiple relations. Okay, how long were you married for?
I'm divorced a few times.
Okay, how many times? I know. Okay, 4. That's okay. That's okay.
It's scary. I know.
Look at Elizabeth Taylor. I think was married 8 times. I think Larry King was married like
9.
that. So, 9 times.
Zsa 7.
I have a friend. She's in her 40s.
Pam Anderson 6. So they all got me beat.
Yeah. So here's okay. Let me. I think even Barbara DeAngelis has been, or married a number of times. Now let's look at. But let's talk about this for a second, because we glorify marriage, but the average person at midlife has probably had 5 relationships that lasted 3 months or longer. Okay, just think back 100 years ago. If you were with someone for 3 months, that was a marriage 100 years ago, or 200 years ago. So all you had was 4 relationships that were serious, and you had a few others. When did your last relationship end?
I did a lot of work after that.
Okay.
It ended in 2018.
Okay.
So it's been 7 years. And I did a deep dive into self-healing, going to therapy and trying to work out my childhood demons, because I had a rough childhood.
Okay.
And it affected me greatly in my choices and making bad choices and stuff. I'm well aware.
Okay. So, all right, let's look at, we're going to poke holes here for a little bit. So let's look at this from a spiritual perspective. Why did you attract this man into your life for this 6-month relationship? Oh, you already know the answer.
I do. To love myself more. And yeah, to love myself more, to know that you can love someone, and show them love as much as you want, or as much as you feel. You can feel that love. But you really have to love yourself first and stand by your boundaries. And otherwise, people will just take whatever they need, and they'll keep taking. And if you don't say, ow, this isn't good for me, they're going to keep taking.
So Well, let's reframe the word taking, because if you're giving and it's mismatched, you have to take ownership of the giving too.
I do.
So okay, I want to poke around a little more. So my suspicion is, in your previous relationships, you didn't speak up. You didn't speak your truth in your past relationships.
Yep.
Okay. Now, our truth, by the way, chapter 1 of my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Chapter 1 is speak your truth, do it with kindness. And my suspicion is, in your 42 marriages, and then all those, I'm just joking. In those relationships, you didn't speak your truth. It seems to me, though, this might be the first time you actually made a stand for yourself. Does that feel true?
Yeah, well, there's still so much good in the relationship. I mean, I can't say, oh, he did this awful thing or that awful thing, or I see that he has I don't know, like I said, I can't diagnose, I don't know what's going on with him with his grief. I try to understand. I told him he can talk to me anytime.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, I feel like he has avoidant tendencies. Like, he just has a hard time. And he opened up greatly to me. So I thought everything was really good because we got each other.
I want to jump in because Carrie made a comment that I want to address in this context. I get scared at times speaking my truth. I have a fear of how the other person might respond. So I want to dive into this for a second, because women have a propensity, if you've ever watched any of my videos, Bella, I always do this.
Yeah.
Now, the duct tape represents the fear of speaking up, okay? But my suspicion is, Bella, this was the first time that you really started to speak your truth. You were opening up, knowing, and by the way, if someone runs away from your truth, that simply means that they're not the right person for you, because chapter 9 in my book is, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So, to some degree, I think why you invited this in, you said to love yourself, to be maybe for the first time vocal about how you feel, and you chose someone who couldn't reach there, and you made even the brave choice to say, you know what, as tempting as it is to stay in this experience, I'm going to choose myself over, something that doesn't feel in alignment to me. Does that feel true for you?
Yeah. Because I knew, like, things were just, we communicated so well, and that's what kept me, like, he was the first person that I've been with, in a long time. Well, I really haven't had actual sex with anyone since my husband.
So he cleared out the cobwebs?
Boy, did he ever?
By the way, you know what? Sex gets such, here's the thing, and I'm talking to everyone here for a moment. We make a big deal about sex, but the reality is sex is a way to connect with another human being at that pleasurable state. I don't think we have to make it so grandiose, like it has to be angels singing and, sunshine and rainbows. Look, you had this, by the way, part of what you experienced was physically connecting with another person. Hopefully you operated from a safe space and that sort of thing, which I'm assuming you did.
Yeah.
So I think, by the way, and the reason why I'm making a little light of clearing the cobwebs is, at our age, we should get as much sex as we possibly can get before we can't do it anymore. Anyway. So that's just a perception I have. Okay. So not to suggest that be hookups or random sex. I'm just saying that. But
I can't do that.
So what if you, okay, let's play with this a little bit. What if you didn't break up with him? How could you have, I'm not suggesting getting back together with him, okay? Because I would suspect he's incapable of opening his heart up. But I also suspect that you don't want to, like, I'm sure you're probably going, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want, I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm just speculating here. Can this be a casual relationship? Since this conversation is about casual relationships, can this be a casual relationship?
The fact that here's the thing, you know, the fact it could have been, I was trying to go with more casual with him.
Okay.
You know, I was trying to accept that he's not ready for like a true relationship all in with a future, but I was trying to just go with it like day to day, I'd say for the last month. And when he mentioned that he was thinking maybe he might be want to be with other, like he was thinking about other women, but there was no one else.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Okay.
That hurt me deeply. I'm like, hey, you got someone that cares about you. That's a great woman that is, you know, giving you the whole enchilada.
I'm curious. Well, I am curious. Please interrupt me. Did you ever agree to monogamy and exclusivity at any time?
Yes. Right in the beginning before we had sex.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I said I told him I can't do friends with benefits. That's just not me.
Yeah.
I'm too old for that. I don't want that. I want to, you know, I told him I'm really looking for a partner, but I said at the very least I want, you know, someone that's exclusive, that, you know, we're dating exclusive and monogamous.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't have a problem with that. That's all I know. So
I'm just writing a note here because I want to bring something up.
Yeah. And so now he kind of changed his tune with saying, well, you know, 2 days prior we had been intimate. And then he goes, well, I just thought about this other woman that when I was a kid and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow. I go, so you're really thinking about other women 2 days after we were together?
Well, because I'm going to tell you why that's the case. He's a man who's probably codependent, meaning he needs somebody in his life constantly. I'm speculating here. I can't say that as a fact. So he needs a replacement because he doesn't feel, by the way, 47 years in a marriage, that's probably represented, by the way, he was 20 years with mom and dad, 47 years with a woman. He's not even known what it's like to be by himself. So
I'm sorry, it was 43 years.
Oh, 43 years. My mistake.
43 years.
Okay, so again,
but still, that's a long
20
time.
years with mom and dad, 43 years with this woman, you know. I mean, no, he must have been married. You said he was 63, so he must have gotten married at age 17 or 20.
He was 20.
But I thought you said she passed away 3 years ago.
Yeah, he's 66.
Oh, 66. Excuse me. I'm quick with math, so I made the mistake of thinking 63. You're 67. Okay. So he's like, I got to fill the hole. I need to fill the hole. I need to fill the hole. I need to fill the hole. It's not with this woman. I can't go any further with her. I can only go as far as I can go with her. I need to fill the hole. I need to fill. That's what's going on inside of him. But let's come back to you because we're going to wrap up with you.
Thank you.
You know, I believe this relationship was an opportunity for you to practice speaking your truth. You're stepping into your power. So I'm going to invite you to answer 4 questions for yourself. Okay. Come back and rewind this to write this. I mean, you don't have to write it down, but someone write this down in the chat box. Okay. Number 1, what positive things about yourself did you learn from this experience? What positive things about yourself did you learn from this experience? Okay. Number 2, how have I healed a childhood or adult wound from this experience? How have I healed a childhood or adult wound from this experience? Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Number 3, what was good about this experience? What was good about it? And lastly, what am I most grateful for? So it sounds like you have an answer to number 2. How have you healed?
Well, I know that I have a bit of, you know, I'm probably anxious attachment, leaning towards, I'm trying, you know, I'm getting better at it. Like he was great practice with that. because I learned to kind of lean back and let it go and, not get so anxious and stuff. So, yeah, but I was abandoned, as a child. So I have abandonment wounds, and this was a little triggering. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to what was good, the third one, what was good and what are you most grateful for? So you obviously the sex was good.
There was a lot of good things.
Yeah. Okay. The sex was good. That was a good thing. I mean, you felt connected. What are you most grateful for from this experience? What are you most grateful for?
To know that my heart is still open.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I have a dear friend of mine. She's 75 years old. She met the love of her life, Alan, at age 67. Okay. I coached her. She went through my coaching, but she's a dear friend as well. And she met Alan, who's the love of her life. They've been married now, I think, 67 or 75. So I guess 7 years, Oh, by the way, Patty just posted the third and fourth one. What was good and what are you most grateful for in this experience? So you know what? Okay, the reason why I challenged you, if you wanted to go back to casual, just to see how you responded. Right now, we are going to make a stand for your sovereignty, Bella. So let's do a prayer for Bella, everybody. God, universe, spirit, I'm inviting in for Bella a juicy, delicious, healthy, happy relationship where she has amazing chemistry with the man, and it's off the charts. And I'm being a little bit exaggerated for a point. It's amazing chemistry with great sex while she can still crank it out. They have great communication together, and even when there's conflicts, they can resolve the conflicts with ease. In this relationship, they can blend lives together. They share the same values, and they can build the deep roots of trust through emotional maturity. God, universe, spirit, I invite this in for Bella. Can I get an amen? How's that sound for you, Bella?
Thank you, John. That's really nice. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Can I give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug?
Of course. Right back at you.
All right. Thanks a bunch, sweetheart.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. So Bella was brave enough to join us on the hot seat, or the love seat, excuse me. I used to call it hot seat. You know what? Great conversation. He's not ready for a relationship for a very genuine reason. He wasn't ready for anything serious. He wants companionship. He wants connection. He wants physical intimacy, but he's not capable of going all in on an emotional level. That's a very understandable place for someone to be in, particularly who's a widower. But what did she do? She made a stand for her sovereignty. She made a stand for her sovereignty. Okay? She spoke her truth. And she recognizes her value because she is holding space for a relationship where deeper love can be built through that emotional connection and that capacity to grow together as a couple. So we have to give Bella some props because she's making a stand for herself. And that's the invitation for you all. Look, relationships are scary. I mean, I get it. It's not easy. Putting yourself out there is not easy. I've said this before, dating a relationship is not for the faint of heart. And yet we all have the capacity to open our hearts to love when we've done the inner work. And she even said she did a lot of inner work to get to this place. And maybe it wasn't the right relationship for her. I think this is a stepping stone for her to attract an amazing guy while she still has a good 20 plus years in her. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. Carrie says, very proud of her. Sandy says, very proud of her. Exactly. Thank you, Sandy. Listen, if you did find value in this conversation, post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And if you appreciate it, hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on Instagram and to get all the books I recommend, all listed below. And again, if you want to work with me, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Barrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love, if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Carrie and Carol and Patty and Debbie and RM Bells and Sandy and Alita says, Jonathan, you're currently my favorite relationship coach. Carrie says, I found a lot of value. I appreciate you. Carrie says, I'm on the verge of stepping stone to something better. Or I believe I'm on there. Lisa, Joan, RM, Patty, Charity, Catherine, let's see who else. Everyone, Kathy, Canadian, everyone, thanks so much. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful day. Take care. Bye now. Bye-bye.